Warning, this episode contains material that is not suitable for all. Viewer discretion is advised.
Another method might be to directly communicate with the child, whether that be using a profile suggesting you're an adult or a profile suggesting you yourself may be a child, and then getting children to send material, what we would call first generation material, to you. Is that how you obtain your images and your decent images?
Police officers are typically associated with stressful situations. We normally don't see or interact with a cop unless something bad has happened. But for a small majority, the traumatic experience came when they interacted with police. One police officer in particular committed some of the most heinous acts imaginable to over 200 young girls. Lewis Edwards, otherwise known by his victims as James, Jacob, or CJ, was a 24-year-old police officer in South Wales, UK. Over the course of several years, Edwards racked up pictures and videos of young girls, some as young as 10 years old, by posing as a 15-year-old boy on Snapchat. During a 3-day-long court case that recently concluded, it was revealed that Edwards would manipulate, threaten, and even secretly record his young victims. One of the victims, who was 13 when Edwards' exploitation began, says she was vulnerable because she was about to start a new school and was beginning to think about boys. I thought I was talking to a really nice boy who liked me lots and complimented me, making me feel good about myself. I thought I was sending him images to make him happy, end quote. When he began to threaten her, she felt, quote, terrified, hurt, and let down. She said, quote, I became his property and felt isolated, end quote. It was also revealed that Edwards would sometimes perform these horrific acts while out on patrol. When the South Wales Police Department became aware of this, they swiftly acted to suspend Edwards and open an investigation. Griffith said members of the police's online investigation team executed a search warrant at the house Edwards shared with his mother and father in Bridgend, not far from South Wales Police Headquarters, in February 2023. He said, quote, the defendant was in his bedroom. Found next to him were 2 mobile phones. Police began the mammoth task of investigating vast quantities of materials on the electronic devices that were able to be accessed. Quote, what it revealed was online interaction between the defendant and female children. He would request girls to engage in various sexual activities, end quote. He tried to stall the investigation as much as he could by not providing passwords and lock codes to his devices. Edwards, after he was caught, didn't even have the remorse to show up one day in court to face his victims. During the hearings, the court heard from a number of his victims and their family members. Their testimony was gut-wrenching. The court heard one girl, who was 13 and 14 when she was targeted, suggested to Edwards she would take her own life. She told him, quote, you've been granted with a mentally unstable girl that's wanted to kill herself. If I jumped off my room, do you think that would do it? I'm not even joking, by the way, if you think I'm joking, because I'm not, end quote. Another victim said, quote, I was only 13 when I was manipulated to being forced to send images of myself online to someone I thought was 15. Now I know he's a grown man, a serving police officer, a pedophile. I was only a little girl, end quote. Quote, I have a repeated nightmare where a man with a camera is watching me all of the time. I never see the man, and then I wake up, end quote. To make matters worse, Edwards would make the girls write the name SnapGod on their bodies before taking naked pictures. SnapGod is a well-known producer and seller of CP on the dark web. It's safe to say Edwards would most likely trade photos of the young girls he was grooming with SnapGod, which is why he would make them write his name on their bodies. The mother of another victim, who was 12, said her daughter started sleeping with a hammer under her pillow, believing Edwards' threats. Quote, she slept with a hammer she had taken from her dad's toolbox under her pillow because she didn't feel safe in her home with all the doors locked and secured, the mother said. Quote, she feels dirty and ashamed, end quote. Investigators feel there is probably more victims out there and ask that they come forward to add more charges onto Edwards. Lewis Edwards was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum sentence of 12 years. Due to the nature of his crimes, the amount of victims, and the fact he was a police officer, I would imagine and hope he serves far longer than 12 years.